All right. So y'all hear me. I'm gonna be going over the God of Western law, is what I call him, no disrespect, not the God of the Almighty commandments, Yahweh, but he definitely is the God of Western law, Amun Osiris. And we're gonna be going over how he's gonna be tearing down child support, but let's keep it moving.
And today, I'm going to teach you there's no law that requires the state to participate in the 4D program, which means that there's no law that requires you to support the public treasury. All right, now, let's get into some case laws.
Okay, now let me just explain that because he go over people's heads. And that's why I made this video to explain what he's talking about. There is no law that makes the state contract with child support. Child support is a business like McDonald's. It's not a government agency. So what he's saying is, if there is no obligation for the state to contract with child support, which is just like anybody else's business out here, anybody can contract with the state. You know how many different businesses people have that contract with the state? But the state has no obligation to contract with child support. So why do you have an obligation to pay the public treasury? Because that's the only reason the state contracts with child support, is to have Title 4A of the Social Security Act, which is welfare. Title 4A, which is welfare, is what the state loans to people. The state loans money for welfare, which is Title 4A of the Social Security Act. And Title 4D is child support, where it's a collection agency. But I'm gonna get too deep. Let me keep going.
Although state participation in the Social Security Act itself is mandatory, participation by a state in the 4D program is voluntary. All right,
what he say? He say the state contracted with the Social Security is voluntary. Why? Because Social Security is owned by the Queen of England. Social Security is not even American. It's British, just like the bar, the British Credit Registry. But let's continue though.
300 verses right there. So the Constitution is mandatory. It's not voluntary. All right. So if they're not obligated to go into this program, what obligates you today? Let's read another.
All right, let's read. Now, what did you just say? Say the Constitution is mandatory. Reason why did he say that? Because this ain't the Constitution. The Constitution don't say that the government has to contract with any private business. Child support is a private business. That's why you have to get a contract for it, because it's not a state agency. I hope this is not going over people's head. Let's continue.
Case law.
Oh, they would do that. They would do that. Let's continue though.
Title 4D does not create enforceable rights on behalf of needy families with children because they are not the intended beneficiaries of the statute. Title 4D was intended to benefit the public treasury. What law requires you to support?
Now, what does that mean? That means children was not the intended beneficiary of child support. That is, children, they pay, you don't want to take care of your child. And that's why you don't want to pay child support. These people are ignorant as fuck. I don't mean to, curse too much on the live. But when you are a person that says you don't want to take care of your child, that's why you don't pay child support. What does it say? Title 4D does not create enforceable rights on behalf of needy families with children. because they are not the intended beneficiary of the statute. The intended beneficiary of the statute is Social Security, because they're trying to get money back from welfare. The public treasury is loaning welfare and collecting child support. That's what child support is about. It's getting the money back from the loan from welfare. So when they broke up the homes and they said, listen, you can't have a man in the house, that's welfare. And they're giving women money for that. Before, we had our own communities. And we were so powerful, they had to bomb us with Tulsa, Oklahoma. But they said, you know what? We're going to break them up. We're going to give this woman some money, and then we're going to make that man pay for it, and we're going to put him in conflict. But let's continue, though.
For the public treasury. That's not. Okay? They lied to you. Oh, you were ordered to support your children. No, this is for the public treasury. All right? Case law that has never been overturned.
This is in the Supreme Court. This has never been overturned. This is Supreme Court of the land, that child support is not for children, but it's for the public treasury. Public is government. That's one of those Black's Law Dictionary words. When you look up public, it's talking about government. The government treasury is what you're paying into with child support. It is not your child. Oh, you don't want to take care of your... No. That's why they're so biased against fathers, because it's not about children. If they love the children, they would let the fathers be in their children's life. They don't want the fathers, because the farther away the fathers are, the more money they get. But let's continue.
Now, here's another one. I like this one. And this was something I pulled out of South Carolina. In any event, HHS promulgated its regulations several years prior to the deadline for states to comply with the automated system requirement. And South Carolina was free to choose to discontinue 4D funding at any time. Okay? There's no law obligating them to participate in this program. All right? If you have an employer that's garnishing your wages, if your employer is not under contract to participate in 4D services, they are not legally bound to do so. So, now, South Carolina also was trying to get out of paying some penalties because they kept falling behind.
What is this talking about? He said, if you got a job that has not made a contract with child support, and for real, we can pull up the contracts that child support does have with the juvenile court. So they are legally obligated. The juvenile court is legally obligated to subject you to child support because they get bribes directly from child support. But if your job does not get a bribe directly from child support, they're not legally obligated to put you on child support. So therefore, they are in violation, and you can call them on it.
And if you don't know, South Carolina had actually one of the worst records out there as far as collections, collecting for the money for the federal government. Okay, just so you know, again, the 4D agency that operates in that state is not a governmental agency. It is not a state agency. Matter of fact, don't even take my word for it. Go to any state website and look up the state agencies. You will not see that child support website on there. Petitioners further contended. Now, this was the 4D crime family, that 4D conditions on funding are impermissibly coercive, and that the Court of Appeals heard by analyzing the alleged coercive effect of Title 4D conditions, solely from the standpoint of the alternative penalty. And what I did was, when I read this case, I was cracking up because the judge basically told him, listen, you're under a contractual obligation. You don't want to be coerced, all right, and doing what they say, then stop going into the contract. I mean, not verbatim, but pretty much that's what they said. What is a condition? Conditions of receiving federal funding.
You're under a contractual obligation. Now, I don't want that to go over people's head. So when he said you're under, the judge was telling the person in child support court, when he was trying to fight against child support, you are under a contractual obligation. All you have to do is no longer go by the contract. What does that mean? The only reason you become under a contractual obligation in child support is because when they sent something to your residence, you did not send it back. You accepted the contract. And through acquiescence, they put you on the contract. You are not even to accept the contract. If you see something come from child support at the beginning, you should send it back to them. No service. No service on contract. They're looking for service. They're looking for you to sign off on the child support contract. You do not sign off when they send it to your house. Now that they put you under a contractual obligation, you have to just say no contract. Let's continue though.
A condition is a future and uncertain event. What is an event? The making of a contract is an event. Upon the happening, what is a happening? There's a contract, which is made to depend on the existence of an obligation. What creates an obligation? A contract, not a court order. Sir, you have an obligation. Well, show me the contract. Right. You buy a new car, you finance that car, that's a contractual obligation. You rent a crib or you get a mortgage, those are contractual obligations. Title 4D, if you don't have a contract with these people, nobody can order you to go into a contract. Or that which subordinates the existence of a liability.
Okay, so a lot of people, they just was at work one day and all of a sudden their money was being garnished. They didn't understand what was going on. What was going on is they put you in a contract. All right. The reason that you know that child support is not a law and the women or anyone else or even the children don't have a right to child support is because they have to lock you into a contractual agreement. You don't have to have a right to bear arms. You have the right for free speech. It's automatic. But with child support, it's not automatic. It's not in the Constitution. You have to be obligated to do it. This is what you're talking about with a contract.
A contract. So what the judge told him in this case, the judge was like, well, listen, you went into a contract with these people. All right. You can't sit here and say it's coercive now. You have every look. You are always free to discontinue Title 4D funding at any time. Anytime. Okay, this is what the court told him. All right, and this is the Code of Federal Regulations that supports that. All right, so the funny part is they make it seem like, yeah, this is for the kids. You read their website, oh, our children need this. No, they don't. Look, check this out. They were never.
Now, what law told you to do the public treasury report? That you had to play the public treasury? Because simply put, what he's saying is, and he said it earlier, the Supreme Court already ruled that child support is not for children or women or parents with needy children. It is for the government treasury. That's why a woman cannot sue child support and say, you owe me, you have to get this money from him because I have a right to this money. You don't have a right. The only reason they're doing it is because they're trying to get money back for the state. So you can't sue them and say nothing because it ain't for you. It ain't for the kids. But guess what? They're going to say, oh, you don't want to pay your child support? Well, then you hate your child. You're not trying to take care of them.
Cyrus, need help? I have my email, forwardthe_destroyer@yahoo.com. Thank everybody for their patience. I do apologize. We're running severely behind. So if you have some documents coming from us, just give us a second. And kill it with a belligerent email. So please, that's not great.
So I'm gonna end this one off. He's ranting, but I'm gonna come back with the God of Western law.